Welcome back everyone. In today's video, we are kicking off part 1 of an exciting journey where we will be building an awesome car rental website from scratch. Whether you are a beginner or just looking to sharpen your skills, this series will guide you step by step in the entire process. We will be using simple HTML and CSS to create this full website. So let's get started. I have my VS Code open. So now we will click on file, and there are two ways to open the folders here. You can click on file and then click on open folder and just select the folder for where our whole code will be there. The other way is using the terminal. So I will show you how to use the terminal to directly open the folder. So currently I have in my D drive I have created my YouTube HTML. So this is the folder. What I will do is I will quickly go ahead and I will select. I will just go ahead and let's just use touch index.html. So using this .html file is created inside this. What you can do is I will also use code space dot. This will directly open my index.html from here as well. You can also click here on file and open folder and directly open the same workspace as well. And just click on here, go to my this PC, volume D. Here I can just directly go into my YouTube HTML, just select this, and this will also open my index.html directly. Now here inside this index.html we can go ahead and start with our code. So first we will have our HTML tag. Inside our HTML we will have our main head tag, which will be the which will contain the title and all the metadata if you want. Currently we will just go ahead and write the title. So this will be our just a simple car rental UI. So this will be our title. We will also have a link to our style sheet. So because we will be using a CSS file, and instead of writing the whole CSS inside the same HTML file, we will create a different file, styles.css. So let me just quickly first write this. Let's complete this first, and let me just first create it here. So I can just quickly go ahead, styles.css. So we have our styles.css now. Because all the CSS will be written inside the styles.css, there needs to be a reference of this. So we will give it a relative path. So this relation will be of style sheet, and we have the reference of it. So the styles.css. So we have both of it in the place. Now we can go ahead and create our body. Inside our body, so this is the main body of our the page that we are going to create. So inside this body we'll go ahead and create one div. So this will be because we will start ahead with the upper navbar section. So let me just give it a name as class as navbar. Let's name it as main section. So this will be our first first page. So let's just name it as main section. Then inside this we will just have our nav. This will be of class name as navbar. Inside this so this will be our upper navbar. So we need one logo, then a search bar, the bigger search bar. Then there are small nav items that we have, like the home. We have like the home, the car rental, and the small icons that when you click on it, it will go to other pages. And then we have our two buttons, login and sign up, as well as one there's a language thing with a world icon there. So those are all the part of this nav bar. So first we will have one logo. So here I will just currently name it as logo. You can name anything. Let's just name it as cars UI logo, and let's give it a name of navbar logo. So we have this nav first, the nav item with the div. Then inside this we also have our search bar. Go ahead and create another div. This will be of input type because we are going to have all of the input element where the user will be able to search. So let's just give this also a class name. This will be of search bar. So this is our search bar. Our input is of type text. So there are multiple input types that you can give input type as a date, so that the date picker will come up. You can give it as a color, so a color picker comes up, because currently this will be just a simple text box kind of a thing. That's why we are just giving it a type of text. We need a placeholder, so our placeholder will be simply search. Okay, so we have our simple search box also ready. Then we will go ahead and create a div. We will then okay, so what we can do is we'll quickly go ahead and have our hotel, flight, train, travel, those small nav options that we have. So we'll have those. So let's just name this div as I think so navbar menu, because those are all small menus that we have. And let's just give it an ID as well, because we will make this responsive, so we will need some IDs to play around with it. So we will just add ID. We will know the use of this ID further when we complete the CSS and everything, and when we'll introduce JavaScript into this, we will know the importance of this ID there. And then we can go ahead and have our unordered list, because we have list of elements there. That's why we are using this list. Let's give this the unordered list a name. So let me go ahead and give it a name of let's give it as a navbar options. So we'll give it the name as navbar options. Inside this, let's create our list elements. So I will use the ally tag for the list elements. Inside this, we will use the anchor tag. So because we want if you click on it, you want to go somewhere. In this case, we are just creating a basic landing page. But whenever if you are doing any application or anything, you want to usually, when you click on any of the navbar items, you want to go to a certain page or a certain section inside the same page. So that's why we are using this anchor tag. Here we will just give this name as anchor as hotel, and if you want, you can pass wherever you want to pass any URL. So you can slash hotel you can do. In our case, we don't want to do anything. We'll use just a simple hash here. Now once this is done, now let's just copy this few times, because we want multiple list elements. Let's copy. Okay, so I have a hotel, a flight, a train, travel, and a car rental. Okay, so we have now all of the options with us, so that is also there. Let me just close down this terminal as well. Okay, so we have completed our navbar options list, which we have the unordered list. Also, we have one more item inside. Out of this unordered list, we will create one div. This will be for our language. There is a world icon and a language mentioned there, so we will just give this a name as language, and here we will have two spans. So let me just copy the world icon. It's just a simple icon kind of a thing. Let's just paste here. And also we have one more span tag. So the way that I have copied is I have used Alt Shift and a down arrow. So this is a shortcut to copy the same line again and again. So you can also easily do that. Just use en here. So our language one is also completed. After this, we have our login and sign up buttons. So let's just create one more div, give it a class name of let's give it as authentication button. So we'll just give it as auth buttons. Inside this, we have a button named as login and a sign up. So we have two buttons, login and sign up. Inside let's just give this button a class name of login, because both of them have different different design. The sign up button will have a white color in the background, but the text will be of a different color, and for the login it's the vice versa, that it's of like a transparent color or and a border, and then the text is of white. So that's the reason we are just quickly giving it a different class names, so that we are able to completely give it a different CSS styles. So I think so our bar is still ready. There won't be any more changes needed for this. Let's first run this and see. Go ahead, let us run it in Edge browser. Okay, so our upper bar is ready. We have our the logo. If you want to add any logos here, we have our search, we have hotel, flight, train, travel, car rental, we have our language one, and 2 buttons. So now let's just add CSS to it and see how it looks. So let's go to our styles.css and let's start by first. So what I've done is here, by using star, it means that in the all of the whole page and the whole body of the page, just give margin as 0. This is just a general practice that has been followed in most of the cases where we try to give the margin as 0, padding as 0, or any by default we don't want any of the margin padding given to our page. Whatever elements wants the padding margin that we want to give, we will select that class name that we have given. We will use that class name and then we will add it. Initially we don't want any of the classes or anything inside it. Then for our body tag, so we are directly selecting the tag. So there is a body tag we have. So for anything which is under body, so because there are two ways in CSS that we can do is either we will add some generalized style. So let's say if I want a certain font family which won't change, the whole website will work on a certain and the same set of font family. It won't change, like it won't happen that for a certain button or a certain nav tag or a certain element there is a different font. We don't usually want that. If you want, you can specifically add to that element any of the font family, but because we want generalize the same font family and not the default one, this is where we first set it. So I will just go ahead and use Arial and sans serif. So let's go with Arial and sans serif. So we have our font family as well. So now let's start first with our navbar section. So we have named this as this class. We have named it as a main section, not a navbar section. Okay, so we have our main section first. Inside our main section, we will use our background image, and let me just copy a URL of the image. You can add any of the image you want. I have just taken some from the free resource like Unsplash and just copy pasting this image here directly. Remove this. We have our background image. Then we want our background size, the image that is there, we want to cover the whole page with it. So that's why we want it, and the pixel shouldn't be broken. So that's why we will use something called as there is a property of background size where we will use cover. So cover without breaking the pixel, it will just expand to the page size, like whatever the width and the size that we will give. In this case, because we are covering the whole page, it without breaking the pixels or without blurring out the image, it will correctly match it to our page. So we have used our background size as well. We will also have our background position that we need. So our background position will be center, because we if you want to currently because we will be taking the whole page, the background position property won't matter. But in certain spaces what happens is we want the background of a certain background position of the image to be towards the left, right, or any other thing. That's why we usually pass this. So to follow along with this, I have used the center property here. Then we can have a padding. So this will be because the whole section is there, and inside that we want the padding. So let's just add from top to bottom. We want 20 px. Side we won't give anything. We will for the element that we want to give, we will give the padding or the margin to them. So by default we are not giving anything to it. And the height we want 100 view height, because we want the full page. So 100 view height will help us to gain the full page height in this case. Then once this is there, we will take our navbar element. So we have our main section. Now we are going inside the nav. I have selected a class of navbar. So now let's just give it some default styling. So inside this, let me also show you. Let me reload it. So yes, as you can see, the background image is loaded properly. Now we are in this section. now all of these are in a row. So there is a cars UI logo, then there is this, and then there is whole section, then there is this, and then there is. So what we want to do is, first inside this navbar we have to give it some styling so that those are all appear in the row. So we'll start by giving it a style. Let me switch to my code editor. Okay, so our navbar will have display flex because we want them in a row. As soon as I use the display flex, if I load it, all of the sections are now in flex. So once this is there, let's add more properties. We want alignment to be in center, so let's do this, align items in center. Then we have justify content as a space between, because we want to take the maximum difference in between all these elements, so that depending on the page size the difference is properly there is a proper width that has been adjusted. So that's why we use justify content space between, that whatever is the space, just take it, whatever big space that is there, just take the whole space. So we have used justify content here, and then we will go ahead with let's just add padding 15 px from top bottom and 30 px from the left and right. And then we want margin from top 0, auto from both the sides, and then border radius. We don't need any border radius in this case because we will keep it transparent, so yeah, anyhow it won't matter. So now let's just reload this and see, because of justify content it has taken the whole space that is there, because now we will add some UI, because this will again go into a row, then this will go, so this whole space will be filled with this content, then this will also be a bit big, so this content will be properly filled, and then their cars UI logo will be there, so that will be filled. But yeah, so now it will take the proper space according to our screen. So if I try to if I decrease the width of the screen as well, as you can see, it's properly adjusting itself. So that's why we have used those properties. Now let's switch back. So we have given all the properties to our navbar. Let's go ahead with our navbar logo first. Navbar logo. To our navbar logo we want a font size of 1.5 rem. So this will just make it a big, around I think so 45 or 55 pixel is around 1.5 rem, and this adjusts this because we have used the rem property, it will adjust according to the screen size. That's why we have used this rem. And we also want to give it a color, so let's just use white color here. So hash FFF is the white color. So we have given this navbar logo also. Let's go ahead and do it to our search bar as well. So we have our search bar. Okay, so search bar we want the display flex. We want the flex to be 1. 1 is just like in this case because there is only single element, but if you have multiple elements in a flex and we want to that I want 1:2, like if you want to partition a certain well, let me show you on screen. Reload it. Okay, so let's say if I have a section like this and this in a row, and if I give a flex of 1 to this and flex of 2 to this, so this will take much more this will take much more space, the second one, than this, because it's a 1:2 ratio that has been given. 1:3 is a different, 1:4 you can go 2:1, so anything like that you can pass and properly adjust them. So now let's complete our styling first. So I have given it a flex of 1. Then once after flex of 1 we want justify content center, because we want it to be in center of the div, and then a margin of top bottom we don't want anything, left right because it was stuck to the cast logo, that's why we are giving it a margin as well. Let me reload it. Yeah, so now it's in properly in center, and there is also a proper, if you try to close it down, there will be a certain margin, it won't just go inside it, that's why. Okay, so this is done for our search bar. Now let's make that search bar a more let's add the CSS to make it that like a transparent kind of a background that we have given it. So we have our search bar, inside we have one input. So for this input we will give a width of 100%. we want the input to take the 100% space that has been given. We will because we have to give a certain max width for this, we will just give a 500 pixel of a max width that it can take. that it needs to be at like the maximum width of this can be 500 pixel. It can't go above that, that's why. And we will give it a padding of 10 pixel and 15 pixel, so top bottom 10 pixel and 15 pixel from left and right. And then a border radius which is needed here, so border radius so that it looks a circular at the edges. So let's just give it 20 pixel of border radius. Border, we don't want to show the border, so we'll just use none. And also outline as 0, so that when you tap on it as well, the border doesn't show up. So that's why we use this outline 0 as well. Then we need a background color, so let's just go ahead with background RGBA. So I have the color already selected, just copy it. Yes, so this will be the color of it. It's a kind of a grayish, grayish and blurrish shade. Color of the text that will type, that will be of white. Then the font size of the text inside needs to be of 1 rem, which is also pretty good. Then we have a background filter, because we want to add that blur to it. So let's just go with background. Let me see, why is it not giving me the option of background filter? Okay, let me just directly, okay, let me type it again. Oh sorry, it's not background, it's actually backdrop. I was typing it wrong. Backdrop filter, not background filter. So backdrop filter, we want to give it a blur of 5 pixels. You can increase or decrease according to your how you feel, how you want your website input box to feel. I think so this blur of 5 pixel is pretty good, it aligns with how we have done it, and we don't want outline because we have already given it. So now let's see how it looks. Let's reload this. Yes, and it looks pretty good. As you can see, if we type anything, your text is white, and there is search, and there is that there is a kind of a blurriness to this text as well. So this looks good. Now let's switch back. We have our search bar input. Also at the placeholder, the search placeholder, we also need to change its text as well. So what you can do is, inside the search bar, inside the input, we will use the placeholder. So this is how you can tap the internal properties of the input. So we need the placeholder, and we want the color of it to be white. So now if you see it, reload it, the internal placeholder is now white. So that's how you can tap into the internal properties as well. So I think so we have completed our search bar section here. Let's go to nav menu section, so where we have this unordered list and the list elements inside it. So let's go inside it. We will go ahead to nav bar menu. Inside this nav bar menu, so we will just quickly have a display of flex. Then we will have our align items in center, because we want all of them to be in center. Then we want justify content to be spaced evenly, because we want because these are the elements which are inside this navbar menu. So the unordered list, and then we have not the unordered list, the list of elements, and then we have the buttons as well, right? So those are the things. So that's why we have used the space evenly, so that all those, the language one, the buttons, as well as our the list of unordered list, all of these 3 total elements are in proper position. That's why we used evenly here, and we will give it the flex of 2. Let us quickly see the UI. Let me reload it. So now as you can see, this and this are now proper, are evenly distributed instead of taking the full space, because anyhow this will again be in a flex, and then we will have our this our language as well as our buttons there. So that's the reason. I'll quickly shift to my navbar menu. Then after this, we'll quickly have navbar options, our language, as well as our auth buttons. So this we are, because we want the same stylings to all three of them, so generalized styling. So instead of writing one style for all of this, that's why we are just taking all of them together. And we want the display of flex, we want the line items to be center, and we want the cursor to be pointer, because when you hover over it, the cursor needs to be, the cursor that needs to be changed to a pointer cursor. That's why. Then after this we will quickly go to language. Inside language we will go to the span tag. The language only has a span tag, so that's why we have used this greater than symbol. So inside the language class, wherever the span tag would be there, just add these styles. So we want the font size to be of 18 pixel, and then we want the color to be white. So let's just use this FFF. So we have added to our span tag as well. Let's go inside our navbar options. So in the navbar options we have the list elements. It's an unordered list of navbar options that we have. So for all the list element we want to give a margin of top bottom, let's not give anything, and 15 pixel from left and right. Along with this we have to give this list style type. This we want to keep it as none. So by default, as you have seen, let me just for now comment this property and show you the UI first. We reload it. As you can see, all of those are properly aligned. The language has also got its style, the span tag. But the thing you can see, there is this dot coming up. This is by default a list style that has been given. So we need to remove that. So let's go ahead and use this none. And now if you let me reload it, and now as you can see, that is when we have made it none, that circle has now has been removed. So that's a default state. That's why once this is set to none, then one more thing that we need to do is there is that blue color, the ankle tag style by default which is coming. We need to also remove that. So let's just go into navbar options, all the ankle tag which is inside there. We want the color, so let's give it a color of white. So we have the white color. Then we need a text decoration of none, so that line removes from the below, as well as the font size. Let's just keep it as 1.2 RAM. Now let's see, reload it. Now it looks proper. So there's hotel, flight, train, travel, car rental, there is English, and now this. Now it looks good as well. So now let's fix our authentication buttons. Okay, so we have this. Okay, so now let's go to our authentication buttons. We have our login, we have our again sign auth buttons, sign up. So now this is how, because auth buttons has a login and as well as sign up, so that's why we use the auth buttons login and then auth button sign up. And there we will use margin 0 pixel from top bottom, 30 pixel from left right. And then we want the cursor to be pointer. Okay, so this is done. Then let's go inside our auth buttons login. For our login button we want the background to be transparent. So we'll use the transparent property. Let's give it a border of 1 pixel, solid white. Keep it solid white border color. Text we want to be white, so let's use the color as white. We want the border radius to be 20 pixel because we want the border to be a circular border. That's why we need the padding to be 8 pixel from top and bottom, 15 pixel from left and right. And then we need the font size, which would be 1 rem, and then the width, let's keep it as 100 pixel here. And let's just go ahead for our, let's copy this and paste it here. This will be for our sign up. In sign up we want the background to be white, so let's directly use this. For border we don't need anything. Let's remove this. Oh, sorry, not remove this, let's directly make it none here, because there will be a default border of black color if we didn't pass anything. So let's make it none. Color, let's keep 333, slightly a grayish black kind of a color. Border radius we have 20 pixel, padding we have correct, we have the width. Now let's see the UI. Reload it, and it looks good. We have our sign up, we have our login, we have our en, we have our hotel, flight, train, travel, car rental, we have our logo, we have our search bar. So I think so the navbar looks good, looks good as well if we move it. So now let's make this responsive as well for our, if you want to view it in a mobile. As you can see, let me select some, let's say iPhone SE or something. As you can see, it doesn't look that good in the mobile. So for a mobile, what we'll do is we will add one hamburger icon, and all of these options will go inside that icon, and if you click on it, a small, a screen will pop above this where all the options will come up, if you, and there will be a close icon to close that as well. So we will now go ahead and complete that section. So let's switch to our editor. Inside our index.html, let's go ahead and add those two things as well. So let's first start by adding our hamburger menu. So we'll create a small div here just below our search bar. Let's give it a name of class hamburger, and we will, anyhow, for a bigger screen, this will be from the CSS only. We will handle it that only for smaller screen this will come into picture, or else this div itself won't be visible to the user. And let me copy the icon. So this will be our hamburger icon. Okay, we have our hamburger icon. Then we also need one close icon. So let's just copy just below this only. Let's name the class as close icon, and let's copy the close icon as well. Okay, so we have our copy icon as well as our we have our hamburger icon as well as our close icon. Once we have those, we will go to our CSS. Let me go to CSS, and inside it, let's start by making it responsive. So we will use a media query. So let's just go ahead and we will use this @media. This will check for our maximum width of the screen. If it has gone, if the maximum width of the screen is above 768 pixel, then in that case we will use our navbar menu. So I think so we have added the ID as well for our navbar menu. Yes, so this is the ID that we have given, navbar menu. So we were typing into this navbar menu's ID. You can also type into the class as well, but because we have given a specific ID to this, we will directly go ahead and use the display none. And so as soon as the maximum width for this, as soon as it's above the 768 pixel, this display none property won't come into picture. Else if it's 768 pixel or below it, this display none will come into picture, and the navbar menus that we are seeing, the menu items that we see, will just go away, because we have directly added display none, so it won't be available in the DOM for the user to see. Also, at this moment in time, we will tap into our hamburger that we have created. We'll just quickly, because now this needs to be in picture, so we'll use display block, and inside this as well we will go into our close icon that we created, and let's just add a show property to this. So close icon dot show, this property, anyhow we will, when we create our script, the JavaScript, when we do, what we will do is we will add this dot show as a string to this close icon. Close icon is so this much is our class name that we have given, dot close icon. This is the class name that we have given. Then because at this moment we want to show this as well, so for the moment, initially the close icon will be display, like we will make initially this will be a display none. So for a regular user, close icon will, for a regular display screen, this will be display none. So for a regular size screen, it doesn't need to, the icon doesn't need to be visible anywhere on the screen. But as soon as this dot show is appended to it, which we will append using our JavaScript, and if the maximum width, if it's 768 pixel or below, then, and at this moment in time, what we want to do is we have to use display block. Then we need position absolute, because we have to position it correctly on the screen. Top will be of 0 pixel, from the right side we want 20 pixel because we want some space from the right side. Then the z index we want it to be 2 because we are using 2 here because there will be one black screen that we will show after clicking on hamburger icon, and above that screen we want to show this icon as well. So that's why I've used z index as 2 here. Then we will have our font size as 25 pixel, and once we have our font size as well, we will give it a color of white. So we have our white color as well. Then we will go inside this and have our nav menu. So our nav bar menu dot active, same way we have added dot active using the JavaScript. We will add it, and in the case when the hamburger menu is active, we want to have a display of flex direction needs to be of column because we doesn't want it to be in a row, we want it to be in a column. Then we will have position absolute because now what we are creating is something which is when you have tapped on your hamburger icon, and now the navbar menu needs to be shown, and because in this screen we want them like the home, then below it we want the flight, then we want the travel, all of the options one below. That's why we use the flex direction of column. We are using position absolute because now this screen will appear above the current screen that we have. So here we will use the z index, and here I will use the z index as 1, and this z index 1 is the black screen with all the menu items, and this z index 2 is because this black screen is there, and above that we want the close icon. So that's why this z index 2 was written here. So now we have our z index as 1. Then we need the width to take 100% of whatever the available space is there. Height will be 100 view height. Then once we have our height, we have from top we don't want anything, 0 pixel. From right also 0, from left also 0, and from bottom as well 0. So from all 4 sides we don't want anything. Then we need one background color, so let's just go into background. Let me copy the color, let's paste it here. So we have our background color as well, and so it should be good. So we have our active as well. Let's add some more responsive CSS for our other elements as well. So our navbar options, the language, and the auth buttons. So for all of those we need the flex direction also to be column. Because they are already in display flex, so instead of seeing side by side, we want them in a column so that we are they are one below the other. And then we want align items to be center, and let's give it a margin. From top bottom let's give it 10 pixel, and from left right let's keep it 0. In the same way we will go and tap into our language and the span tag, and let's give it a font size of 25 pixel so it looks a bit large and maps properly to our screen. And from margin top let's give it a 10 pixel. So we have also given a span tag as well. Now let's also type into navbar options and all the list that we have. For the list we want to give a margin from top to bottom now, and let's keep left right as 0 in this case. And also list of type we want this to be none, so that none of the list elements that dot that appears for the list that shouldn't be visible, so we have used this none. Same way we want our navbar options for our anchor tag as well, where we want the font size of 35 pixel so that it looks good. And now let's tap into our auth buttons, login, as well as auth buttons, sign up. And let me fix this dot. Let's keep the dot here, remove this dot. And here we have a width of 250 pixels. Then we have the text align of center so that all the text is in the center. We want to have a margin of 10 pixel top bottom, left right 0, and a padding of 10 pixels. I think so. This is all we need with our media query. Let's see it in the UI. Anyhow, we need to complete our JavaScript logic as well, but let's see. So as you can see, there is this icon, hamburger icon, it's coming up. But as you can see, just after 768, everything aligns itself properly. Now we will, add some logic for JavaScript logic, so that when you click on this, the other screen appears and all of the other CSS that we have wrote, that will come up into the picture. So let's see that now. Switch back to my editor and let's go ahead and create that file as well. Let's create the file scripts.js. So here we will write our JavaScript. So we will just start by creating one simple function, toggle menu. So this toggle menu is nothing but when you click on the hamburger item, we need to see all the menu items, and if you click on the close, it will just toggle in the sense it will just close it. So here we'll first get our menu. So we are just using const menu. Now we will use document dot get element by id, and as we have given an id to our navbar menu, as you can see here, the navbar menu has been given an id. So here get me this element. So get me the nav bar menu. So I have it inside this menu variable that I have created. Create one more variable for our close menu. Here we will get this document dot get element by id, and we have the id as, I think so, close icon id. Let me just check if we have given the id to our close icon. No, we haven't. Let's just give the same id. Let me copy paste this. Yes. So now we have also taken our close menu, because this also needs to be shown when we toggle the element. So this also needs to be toggled accordingly. So we have both of them. So now in the menu, which is the hamburger menu that we have, inside its class list. So class list is nothing but the class name that we gets. So the navbar menu, that is the class name that we have, and then we will use something known as toggle. So this is by default given by JavaScript framework to us, that if you want to add if you want to toggle anything. So let's say if a user clicks on it first time, then it will add an parameter to it, and if he clicks again, then it will remove it. So instead of for us to write a if else statement that if it's if this is the class name, then remove and add this, they by default has given it something known as toggle. So we will just use this directly. So just toggle and add this active. Just toggle this active depending on how many times the user clicks on it. And in the same way, we have our close menu dot class list dot toggle, and here we have toggled it as show. So our script is also there. Now we just have to go ahead and import our script as well. So let's just go below. We will have our script, and inside this source we will have our script.js that we have just now created. So now let us see how it looks. Let me reload it. Okay, there's one more thing that we need to do. We need to remove this. So in the CSS, we need to write the CSS for this as well. Let's click on this. Okay. Oh, okay, because we haven't called the function, that's why it's not working properly here. So let's first fix that as well. So here we have our hamburger. Here we will use something called as on click. So on click, we just want to go ahead, and I think so what we have named the element as toggle menu. So we will go ahead and call this toggle menu here on the click of this, and the same way we want to do when you click on this as well. So whenever you click on this hamburger icon, we need to call this toggle menu, which will add that class into it and will show us the UI after adding it. And there is one more thing we need to fix, is that hamburger icon is still visible. So that's because we haven't wrote the initial CSS here to we just need to remove it from our regular flow when the screen is above 768 pixel. So we don't want to see that as well there. So what we will do is we will quickly just write a CSS for that as well. Let's write it here only. So we'll have our hamburger CSS. For this we'll just write font size and 0.5 rem and color to be white, cursor as pointer, and display initial will be none. Yes. So now let us go here, let me reload it. So as you can see, now it has been removed, and let's see this in a mobile view. So I have put it in a mobile view. Let me quickly reload it. So sometimes what happens is when you quickly switch into a mobile view, the browser doesn't sometimes respond to it correctly. Let me reload it few times. I think so our browser is stuck. Let me okay, so let's just go with the default way. I think so our browser is stuck. Let's just go with the with this way only. We need to actually close and run again, but we can check the functionality by keeping it like this. Let's click here. As you can see, as soon as I click on it, a new kind of a screen has opened. We need to fix this. We need to actually fix this navbar CSS here, but I think so if you click on close as well, yeah, it's removed. So as you can see, this functionality is working. So let's just go ahead and fix this the hotel flight and the navbar items that we have options we have. Let's fix this. Let me switch to my code editor. Okay, let's check where we missed anything. Okay, so in our navbar options we need a comma here. Because we didn't have a comma, so navbar options in the language they are different class name. That's why the CSS was not working properly. Let's reload this. Let's check. Yes, now as you can see, the CSS is proper as well. You can close this, click on it, close on it. Let's just add a cursor to this as well. So we have our close icon. Let's just add a cursor pointer to this. We reload it. Now we have a cursor icon. We can close it, open it, and if we move our page towards this, and it's fully responsive as well. So we have our top bar completed. Let's start by creating the other parts. Let's start by creating our title, which will be shown here. So we can quickly hop onto our index.html here. Like below this nav, what we'll do is we'll quickly create one div. Inside this div, let's just name this as class main section title, because this is like a title that will be shown. Then what we will do is inside this we want one h1 with some text of rent a car for every journey. Same way we have another text. Let me just copy paste the text. Let's print it out here. Okay, paste it here. Okay, so we have both the text now inside this div. Let's just quickly write this CSS as well. So inside our style.css, we'll quickly go ahead and create one CSS for this. Let's try to create it here. So we have our main section title. We want to give it some margin, so let's just give 10 px from top and bottom, 40 pixel from left and right, and let's give some maximum width to this. So I'm just giving it a maximum width so that it won't stretch out till the end. That's why we are giving some maximum width to it. And let's also add some CSS to our h1 tag as well. So our main section title, inside it we have an h1 tag. Let's give it a color of white, and along with this we can also give it a font size of 3.5. Let's view it. Let's see how it looks. Let me reload it. Okay, so we have this, but I think so our color has not been updated. Let's see if we missed out on something. We have a class, we have h1, we have our main section title, Oh, okay, sorry, I added a dot here, that's why. Let me reload it. And now it's proper. So we have our title here as well. What we can do is, now let's also push this towards the end. For this, what we can do is inside our main section directly. So yes, what we will do is inside our main section, let us, so what happens is, if we will use the display flex direction and just push it towards the end. Because of the use of this, what will happen is all of them will be stretched in a single page towards the end. We don't have to, add some margins that give this margin from the top and all of those things. We won't need it. So let's just go ahead, copy this name. We have our main section. Let's search for our main section. So the first occurrence of it, we have all of this thing. Let's just go ahead and add a display flex property of this. So we'll have display flex. Our flex direction would be column. So we have our flex direction, we'll keep it as column. Now it has gone into column. We will also need to justify content of space between so that it stretches out till the end. Let's now reload it. As you can see, it has moved till the end. Let's also fix that UI thing that has happened. So actually we need to add some width to it. So we just need to make the width as 100% because we have used display flex property. So it needs a width for it to to go around and towards the end of it. So that's why. And also one more thing we need to do is, this is our main section, we need to also add a width to this nav bar as well, because as you can see our nav bar has been succumbed to, like there is some auto space that has been added here. So what we need to do is we just need to quickly go ahead and add a width of 100%. And now if we reload it, you can see it has now properly taken the whole 100% of its widths, and there is a gap in between these two as well, between our title and this. Now we will start by creating the white space of the single form with multiple values inside it that would be below this this title. So let's start by creating that. So here we will first go to our index.html. Inside this, just below this div where we have created our main section title, we will create one more section. This section is the form that we are going to create, a small form where we have all the details and everything. Inside this, let me just give this a class name of all details section. So we have our section ready. Inside this, I will create one div. Let's give this div also a name. Let's give it a name of details section. So we have the name for our div class as well. Inside this, we will go ahead because this is where we are going to create actually 4 fields. So we have our departure, pickup, our pickup time, as well as our departure time. So 4 things that we need. So we are going to create 4 input boxes, and there will be a round trip check as well, a small check box that we are also a sliding checkbox actually that we are going to create for this. So we will just create the outline of it, and we just have to copy paste that same outline for the other 3, and we just have to copy paste and create for the other 3 as well. And there will be a checkbox, and there is some search button that we have to create below. So that's the whole UI that we are planning to create. So let's first complete this part. So we have our first the outer div which will contain our there is an all detail section. Inside it we have one detail section. Inside we want one more div which will be our departure section. So this is where we are starting with the first input box, which is our departure section. Let's just name it as departure section. So we have our departure section with us. Inside this departure section we have one title, above title. So that's why for the title we need one more div. Let's give it a class name of let's say details title. This mostly will be because this inner part of the code we have to again copy paste it for the other 3 as well. And let's just add some title here. So I will just create one small div. Inside this, let's give it a title of departure. So we have our departure. Inside this, we will create one more div. This is where we are adding that checkbox one. What we will do is first we will create this. We will add the checkbox later. First we will complete the form part first. So inside this let's just give it a class name of round trip. So we have details round trip. So inside this details round trip, we can just go ahead and create one more div, which will be an h5, and let's just add round dash trip. So we have our round trip with us. We have and below the beside this round trip, we will have one more div for the checkbox, and let's just give it a name of switch container. So because it's like a switch box of sliding switch box, that's why I'm giving it a name of a switch container. So we will give it a name like this. Inside this switch container, we will have a label, and let's just close it directly here. Inside this label, we will just give it a class name of, let's say, switch, and outside of this label, inside this label actually, we will just add an input. This will be of type checkbox. So we have our checkbox. We also need a slider, so we will just quickly create one span, and let's just give it a class name of a slider. And that would be it for our checkbox code. We can do now is, so we have our switch container, we have our details round trip as well, and just outside of this details round trip, we will go ahead and create the below container, which will settle just below this details title. So just below this details title, or we can not below this details title. So we have our departure, we have a round trip, which we will contain inside this details title, and just outside of this, what we can do is we will create one in the input box, the actual input box, which will contain our details. So let's just give it a name of details input box. Inside this details input box, we will have one img tag. So let me just add the closing of it. This img tag will have a source, and this source I will just give it a location icon.png. So this is nothing but some pngs that I have with me. So let me just copy paste it into my project structure. As you can see, this is the location icon png, so I am directly using it here. Same way, let me copy the other one as well. So this will be the down arrow png, and that's, I think so these two are only required for us currently. So I have both of them. So I have the img with me. Now we will have our input. Let's give this input a placeholder, and it will be name city, airport, or station. So that will be it for the input as well. Similarly, we will have one more img, and for this source, we will just copy paste the down arrow.png line. So we will just go ahead and write our source as down arrow.png. So I think so our first full HTML element is created. Now let's just go ahead and write the CSS of this, so it's properly completed and we can see it in the UI as well. So now let's go into our styles.css. Inside our styles.css, let's just move towards the end. Here we will start with our all details section first. So we have our all details section, which is our outer section. Inside this all details section, we will have a background color which is of white. We will have padding of 20 px from all sides inside this white color background color that we have given to this section. Then we will need one border radius. Let's keep the border radius as 8 pixels from all the sides, a bit of a rounded border we want. Then we want the margin to be 10 pixel from top and bottom and 20 pixel from left and right. I think so this would look pretty good. Then we will have our details section. Inside our details section, we will use display flex, so that we are using display flex because we want all of the contents inside this detail section. So let me show you this detail section first. So this is our detail section where we have this departure as well as this round trip. So round trip is nothing but that checkbox that we are having. So departure and the round trip needs to be in a row. That's why we are using the display flex for this whole for this whole div that we have created. So the content, there are only two content inside this. One is the departure as a title that we have used, and this class where we have used this round trip and this as well. So this needs to be in a row, so that's why we have used display flex. We need to align them in center, so align item center. So now both of them are aligned as well. Then we will also use justify content. We need to use space between because we want the maximum space in between them. As well, we need to use flex wrap, so we need to wrap the content as well. That's why we are using flex wrap for this. Once our detail section, this part is completed. Okay, so the detail section is actually the upper outer part. It's the departure section, that's the other one. So for detail section, actually this whole code is inside the detail section. So what will happen is our whole departure, our pickup, our time, as well as our pickup time, all the four of the section will be inside this detail section that we are going to create. So we'll just copy paste this much amount of code again and again 4 times for the other, and we'll just change the title and the details as well. So for that we need all of those in the flex as well as in center. And when you make the screen size smaller, we want to go them one below the other instead of just overlapping over each other. That's why we use this flex wrap as well. So once this is there, let's go into our departure section as well. So we will go into our departure section. Inside our departure section, we will have a maximum width of 300 pixel. So we are just keeping a maximum width of 300 pixels so that those forms are not too big that we are going to create. Then we need our details title. So the title that we have inside our details title, we will just go ahead and write it as display flex. We want them in a row, that's why display flex. Then we want align item center. Justify content would be space between because we want to give the maximum space in between them, as well as we need some margin as well. So from the bottom, let's just give it a 10 pixel. So we have our margin as well. We will go ahead and go inside that details title, and inside the p tag that we have written, we will just give it a font size as well. So let's just give it a font size of 16 pixel as well as a font weight of 700 so that it looks pretty good. So we have our font details titles font weight as well. Once we have given this, let's just go ahead and give our round trip that we have created. So this round trip as well, that needs to be in a display flex, and our align items needs to be center. So once we have all of this, let's just go ahead and create our input box, the input checkbox that we have. So details input box. For our details input box, we need to be in a display flex. Our align items needs to be in center because we have the images as well. So we want both the images, both the images towards the in a row. Then we need a background color. Let me just copy the color only directly. Just copy the color. Let's just give the background color here. So this will be the background color that we will be giving to it. We need some padding, so let's just give 5 pixel from all sides, and we need one width because we have kept the maximum width at 300 pixel. We will take the total width as 300 pixel for this input box as well. We will give a border radius of 8 pixel from all the sides. So we have our border radius also in the place. Then we will go ahead and for our images that we have inside this input box, for these images we will have a width of 20 pixel, and let's just go ahead with the height of as well 20 pixel. That would be pretty good enough. Now let's just go and first let's see this how this looks. Let me go ahead and reload this, and as you can see, there is this white color form that has been created. Inside this we have our departure, we have this quick check of round trip as well, and then as you can see we have this bigger where we have this input box along with our images, but this is not looking pretty good. So let's just submerge it so that it looks good within our UI. So we will just quickly go ahead inside our details input box. We will go and access this input. So there is an input inside this details input box that we have created. Let's give it a margin of 0 pixel from up and bottom, 10 pixel from left and right, so that there is bit difference between the image and our input box. We need outline as 0 because we don't want any border, and let's just keep the border as none. So now even if you tap on it, there will be no border. Then we will go ahead and give it a padding of 10 pixels so that it looks pretty big and good. Let's keep the background color as transparent. We don't want any color as such. We want to use the background color that we have given, should be the one that needs to be used here. let's keep it black, the color of the text inside it, and let's just give the width as 300 pixels. Let me reload it, and as you can see, now it looks pretty good. You can click on it, you can type on it, because we have given the transparent color, and as well as this is 300 pixels, so it looks good as well. So now let's just copy paste this code 4 times so that we have departure, pickup time, dates, and everything. So we will go ahead into our index.html. Inside our index.html, we will go ahead and let me copy paste this whole code. Actually, we won't need this whole code. We need to remove something out of it. Let me first copy it. We will go ahead and paste it for the second time. So this will be first is our departure. Once we have departure, we have our return location. For this, we don't need any round trip, because for return location anyhow you won't be needing any round trip as such. And then inside this return location, we will go ahead and now copy this part. Let's just copy this for our third one, which will be nothing but pickup date. So let's just copy this and let me write it properly. So this will be our pick up date and time, and then let's copy this again, paste it, and this will be nothing but return date and time. So this will be nothing but return date and time. So we have our return date and time as well. Let's just change our input. So we don't need any placeholders here. Remove it. We need to give it a type of date time local, so that it will take the local date time when you click on it. And also just copy paste this for our pickup as well. So here inside our pickup, instead of this placeholder, we will just quickly go ahead and type this. Now once we have this, let's just look how does it look. Let me reload it, and as you can see, we have our departure, round trip, we have return location, pickup date time, and return date time. You can type anything inside this. You can click on this and you will get the calendar as well as the time. You can choose any of the time, any of the date, and it will be pre-filled inside this. And you can do the same as well for this as well. And let's now focus on creating this checkbox. So we will go into our index.html and start creating the CSS for this checkbox. So inside my style.css, we will go ahead and let me quickly take the name of our the slider that we are going to create for the checkbox, because that checkbox doesn't look good in the UI. So we will just create it into kind of a slider, so that it looks much better when we create it. So let me just quickly see. So we have this switch container, so we will start by creating that. Let me just directly do it here only. So first we will tap into the switch container. So for this switch container, we will use display flex. Then we will align the items in center, and then we will just add some margin to it. So we don't want top and bottom, we just want left right 10 pixel. So this, we just want it in a flex direction, that's why we have given this. Then inside this we have created a switch. For this I will add the position of relative. This is because when we go into the input checkbox, we don't want it to, when we go into the input checkbox as well as the slider that we are going to create for this, that shouldn't go above this switch div that we have created. That's why we are using this position relative. So whenever we use position.absolute in any of the child of the div, we need to add some position relative towards it, or else what happens is it will take the whole browser's width, browser's height as its parent's position, and then it can go anywhere in that, and that would be an issue. So that's why we keep the relative, so that that relative to this position you can move anywhere inside this. So we have added this position relative. Then we will quickly go ahead into display. We want it to be an inline block, so that it doesn't go out of this block that we are creating. We'll just keep it 38 pixel, and the height, let's keep it 19 pixels. So this will be our small switch that we are going to create. Then let's tap into the switch input. Inside this we want to give it opacity of 0. So we will start with the opacity of 0. We will give it the width of 0, as well as we will give it a height of 0. This is because the input inside this we will use the translate values, because we have to add some animations of after and before. That's why we are going ahead and giving this the default checkbox that you see. We don't want to show it in the UI. That's why we are just giving it opacity of 0, width and height and all of those as 0. Then we will go ahead and type into the slider. This slider, we will give it a position of absolute, and we will also add cursor as pointer for this. So we have the cursor as well. We will want the top to be 0. For the top we want to be 0, left 0, right 0, and bottom as well 0. So from all the sides we don't want it to go anywhere. It should stay where it is currently. Then we will just add a background color that is of, let's say, CCC, a bit of a grayish kind of a color. Then we want to add some transition, so that's why we're using this transition for 0.4 second. That will be the total time of this transition. And we will add some border radius as well, and let's give it a border radius of 34 pixels so that it's more properly rounded from all the edges side. Then we will go into the sliders. We will use slider before, so so that to show that round knob that we want to show. That's why we are using this slider before, where we will go into the position. We want the position to be absolute. The content needs to be empty. We don't want any content inside of it. That's why we are keeping it empty. Then we will quickly go into the height, and we want the height to be of 17 pixels. This is the knob that we are creating, the slider knob. We want the width to be 16 pixel. We have the height, we have the width. Let's give it from left, keep it 1 pixel so that it's not on the very edge, because it's a circle, so it looks a bit edgy. That's why we are giving to left from 1 pixel. From bottom as well, let's give it a 1 pixel. And then we will just go ahead and add a background color of white for this. Once we have the background color, we can also go ahead and add transition. This will be the same as 0.4 second that we want. And the border radius, just keep it 50%, so that there is no, it's like a full circle that comes up. So we have our slider before as well. Now when you will click on that checkbox, we want the slider to happen. So what we will do is, when the input is checked, the moment the input is checked, at this moment we have added the plus, so that it checks that when this is checked, then only the sliders the color should be changed. So at that moment we want the background color of our slider to be black. So we will just go ahead and I will just copy this dark black color, and this is the dark black color that we can go ahead and use it. And this will be only happen when the input box is checked, and at that moment only the sliders color will check. And we will also need to do one more thing. We have to also show the transition of that movement from from the left to towards the right, from left towards the right. And at the moment when you check it, so when the input is checked, at that moment itself, for the slider, and we will need to go type into the before, and in this moment we want to add the transform and translate x. So in the x direction we want it to move 21.5 pixels. So when you tap on it, there will be a slight of for 0.4 second, there will be a slight transition that happens inside this case. And we can also go ahead and add some optional some shadow effect if you want. So let's just go ahead and add that shadow effect as well. So I will go into the slider before. So I want some box shadow of 0.02 pixels, and let me copy the color of the shadow. So this will be the color that we will quickly go ahead and add this color as well. So we have this as well. So once this is there, now let's check out our UI. Let me reload it. As you can see, when I tap on this checkbox has now created into a slide, an animated slider. So this is the thing. Now our checkbox part is also completed. We'll just quickly add some filter part below this, and a search button as well. So let's switch to my code editor. Here I will just quickly go below, just above our section. What I will do is I will create one more div. Let's name this as a filter, because this is nothing but just the filter that we are adding. So this will be our filter container. Inside this filter container, I will have one more div, in which we will have one p tag, which will have this filter. Let's also give this a name of filter options. So this is nothing but the filter options that we are going to have inside this p tag only. Let's create one div as well. just properly write it. Yes, so because the filter is the word here, keyword here, and then we have two filters just in a flex with him. So this will be a simple span with the name without driver, and then we have one with driver. So let me just copy this and let's just paste it just here only, and this will be with driver. And let's also give them some class names. So this will be class so we have filter options, and then actually we need both of them in a single class. So what we should have done is we should have created one more div, and let's just put both of these two inside this single div, and let's give this a class name of options so that both of them are aligned, and then the inner div as option without driver. Let's give it a name option without driver, and this will be option with driver. So let's just give this a name as option with driver. So we have both of them inside the single class. We have this filter options. Just outside of this, what we can do is just outside of this filter options, we will just go ahead and create one more button. So we will just use a div. Inside this we will have one button named as search. So this will be our search button. And let's just give this a class of search button. So we have our search button as well. Let's just take a look how this looks. Let me reload it. As you can see, we have our filter, we have our without driver, with driver, as well as the search. Now let's just go ahead and write this CSS. So inside our CSS file, we just go below here. We will start with our filter container first, and then we will move towards writing the other options of it. So first we will go ahead with filter container. Let me start writing it. So we have our filter container, which is nothing but display flex, because we need them in an that, and the button needs to be at the end, so we need in a row, and then we will use our simply justify content space between, so that there is full row space that it should take. Then align item center, that also we have been doing. To align them in the center, we need a padding of 10 pixels, and let's just give it a margin top of 10 pixels as well. So we have this. Then we will go into filter options. Inside our filter options, we will just use display flex along with align item center. So we have this as well. Then inside this we have our p tag. So let's just go ahead with, let me just quickly write filter options. Inside this our p tag. For this p tag we have a font size of 16px. We have a font weight of 600 pixel. So let's just give it a 600 pixels font weight. And then what we can do is margin right of 10 pixels, and this is also there. We can then go ahead and let's just add some CSS for our options as well. So we want our options to have a display of flex, and let's just add some gap in between them. So we'll just use 10 pixels gap to have some space between those two filters that we have used. Then we will just use without driver first. So we are without driver, we have a background color of black. So let's just directly give it a black color. Text color should be white, so let's just give it a white color. We want a border radius to be of 20 pixels, so that those are rounded border around it. We want some padding, so let's just give it 8 pixels from top and bottom and 15 pixels from left and right. And then we just want the cursor to be pointer. Once we have this, we can just go ahead with our with driver one. For our with driver, we have a background color of white, so let's just go ahead with the background color of white. Our text color is black, so let's just go with black color. Then we have a border, so let's just give it a border of 1 pixel, sorry, light gray, I would say. Okay, light gray. So we have our light gray border as well. Then we will go ahead with our border radius. So let's just give it a 20 pixel of border radius. Then a padding, let's give it 8 pixel, same as above, 8 pixel and 15 pixel left and right. and let's just give it a cursor of pointer. Once this is done, let's just go ahead and style our button as well. So we have our search button. Inside it we have a button. For this button we have a padding of 10 pixels top and bottom, 20 pixels left and right. We have a background color of, let's add a black color background. We have a color of white, so we'll go ahead and give it a color of white. We don't want to show any border, so let's just give the border as none, and let's add a border radius as well. So let's give a border radius of 5 pixel. So we just have small curve around it, and also cursor of pointer. Once we have this, I think so it should look good. Let's see it in the UI now. Okay, I think so. Oh, okay, so this looks good. We just have to do one thing. For without driver, here it needs to be color. Let me reload it. Now it looks good. So we have with driver, without driver. This also looks good. I think so. We have a padding. Okay, this needs to be 8 pixels. So let me reload it. Now it looks good. So we have our without driver, with driver, we have this filter, as well as we have search button towards the end. And this looks good. So let's just now make this responsive, because as you can see, the moment I start to collapse it, our form too is properly collapsing, but you can see this has gone into this. So let's fix this this part. So because this is going inside this, so let's start by fixing this first. So let's switch to my code editor. Here I will go into this the media query that we have written just towards the end. Let's first start by fixing our filter containers. So we will have a filter container. We want the flux direction of it to be column, so that it goes one below the other, and we will just align them in the start so that it always stays at the start, not in the center. Then we have our search button. For a search button, let's just add some margin so that it was going inside of it, so we don't want that. So from 20 pixel up and bottom, because now this will go down, that's why. And from left and right, we won't be having anything. Then we have our options. For our options, there's a gap, so we will just reduce that gap to 5 pixels so that it doesn't go to multiple lines, and that thing doesn't happen at a smaller space. Then we have our details input box. We will just make it a bit smaller, so the width of 300 pixel we will just down it to 250 pixels. Same way, what we can do is our detail input box, we have our input as well. Let's give its width to 250 pixels. Same way, we have our details input box where we have the images. For the images, let's just bring it down to 15 pixels, both width and height. We will just bring it down to 15 pixels. And we can also go ahead and for our main section title, because it was pretty big, we will just change its max width to 300 pixels so that it won't go above that. In the same way, for our main section titles h1 that we have, we will just add a font size of 28 pixels, and then the margin, let's give it a margin of 0 pixels from any of the sides. Now let's see the UI. Let me reload this. Now let me just go here. Okay, looks good. It's going, looks good. And yes, as you can see, this is the usual mobile height that is there. Usually it's 300 and 400 that is there, but as you can see, this also looks good. Nothing is going inside anything, and the form also looks pretty good. One more thing what we can do is, let's just add some margin for each of those. So let us just go inside this, and let's see our top container. So we have our departure section everywhere. We can do is, for our departure section, just add a margin top of 10 pixels, and let's reload this, and I think so this should look good. Now it has a margin top as well. Let's increase it to 20 pixels. Let me reload it, and now it looks pretty good. So now if you have a bigger one, it looks good. If you have a very smaller one, this also looks good. So this is properly responsive as well now. So we have completed our first page of our car rental UI using HTML and CSS. and we have laid the foundation, and I hope you are as excited as I am for what's coming next. In the next video, we will dive even deeper, adding new features, styling, and more functionality to take this website to the next level. If you found this helpful, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss the part 2. Got any questions or ideas? Drop them in comments and I will be sure to answer them in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Let's keep building.